I walked into the Philadelphia Flower Show and was completely overwhelmed. Flowers everywhere, orchids flying overhead. It looked like an orchid show had exploded and then suddenly froze in time. And that was just the installation and the entry. I went to the flower show on the Press and Members Day, which only lasts a few hours, so I didn't waste any time exploring all the gardens. I really enjoyed Susan Cohen's garden titled Swing Time, which celebrates spring from the early blossoms to the ephemeral ponds formed by melting snow. A wooden swing hangs over a small hill in the garden. Gosh, I bet it'd be fun to sit on that swing. And this is where it really struck me. Last year, when the flower show was outside, these gardens looked so at home. The wind was blowing through the leaves, butterflies were visiting flowers. This year, though these plantings still look natural and perfectly assembled, they can only look so authentic when surrounded by acres of concrete. That was especially striking in this delightful garden by the Men's Garden Club of Philadelphia, which celebrated birds and birders. At last year's show, I'm sure birds would have discovered and partied in this garden. This year, they had to fill it with decoys. Of course, having an indoor flower show allows for some things that you might not be able to pull off at an outdoor flower show. They were able to integrate a lot more technology that might not have held up as well in the rainstorms that interrupted last year's show. The Night Garden by Apiary Studio created an enclosed space that was tightly planted and filled with projections. It was beautiful and striking and probably would have been a lot more difficult to do outside in FDR Park. This installation, called Florid Electron, felt like what happens when you mix a flower shop, a Salvador Dali painting, and a haunted house in a blender. And I mean that in the best possible way. It also wouldn't be possible to have gardens full of tulips or tropicals at an outdoor flower show in early March. I said this last year too, but it's so inspiring to see how many different things can inspire a garden. This garden, called I Look to the Heavens, played with the idea of orchids in space. Studio Exotica was a garden inspired by the story of disco. Like any exclusive club, there was usually a line to get in, but it was worth it. I mean, how often can you party with tropical plants and disco balls? Temple University's garden imagined the relics of an electric distribution center being taken over by nature. I'm a sucker for water features, and their garden had at least 3. I walked through Eye Candy, which reminded me of walking by the Macy's windows in New York around the holidays. Thet Urbain's installation imagined what a planting of flowers might look like to a bee. This garden, called Brain Forest, featured a variety of plantings emerging from this pulsing brain. There was an exhibition of garden tools and ephemera from the collection of David Rubin, who's a Philadelphia-based landscape architect. I especially enjoyed the old seed advertisements. I made sure to stop by the Horticourt, where anyone could submit a plant for judging. The Horticourt did seem better suited for an indoor show, too. This garden, by Treeline Designs, was inspired by stories of the war in Ukraine. I walked down the path, edged with trees and flowers, that ended near this giant, colorful triangle. On one side of the garden, I noticed a log covered in mushrooms. Beautiful. And yet, so strange in this cavernous convention center. Of course, if you want to see a natural landscape outside, you can see that every day. If you want to see lush, beautiful gardens inside a convention center in Philadelphia, well, you can only see that for 1 week a year, because I think they've got a load in the RV show next week.